The Orlando Magic have been amazing as of these last few weeks. As I'm recording this video, they're currently 11-4 over their last 15 games, and that ties the Cavaliers and Timberwolves for the third best record during the stretch. And I'm not going to act like this is like some new phenomenon this season for the Magic, because it's not. They've been floating around near the top six of the East for majority of the season, rarely falling into play-in tournament territory. And obviously, you have to start with their best trait, and that is their lockdown defense. For the whole season, they've been one of the best teams in the league in that category, and that's what's been keeping them afloat throughout the entire year. As things currently stand, they are fifth in defensive rating, and if you paid attention to them last year, this isn't really much of a surprise, as they showed a ton of promise on that end near the second half of the season. So I did some digging around to see what's making things click so much for them on that end, and for one, they do such an amazing job at limiting opponent shot attempts. For example, the other night they matched up against the Jazz and held them to just 80 shots, which is about 5 shots less than their season average of about 90.5. Now, I know Utah isn't the most elite offensive team in the NBA, but it should impress you more to know that Orlando's held an opponent to 80 or fewer shots 18 times this season. And overall, they're leading the league in shot attempts allowed by their opponents, and over this 15-game stretch, they're also limiting opponents' three-point attempts at an amazing rate, good for second in the league in that category. And over this particular 15-game stretch, they're also the top team in terms of forcing turnovers. And you always have to be really impressed when these younger teams find ways to dominate and commit on the defensive end like this. And yes, to be honest, while they're amazing from a defensive standpoint, their offense is going to still need a ton of work. They're kind of like the Timberwolves, where they're outstanding when guarding the ball, but subpar on the offensive end. Right now, they have the league's second slowest pace in their bottom half in offensive rating. So given that, before I get too far ahead of myself, we do know that this team isn't like a super deep playoff team just yet, the way things currently are. But there aren't a lot of teams right now that you can name that have the upside that Orlando has, and they're literally on the perfect trajectory right now. And what you like seeing with these rebuilding squads is linear progression over the course of time. And this is great because before last season, I was a bit confused and concerned as to where they were with their rebuild and who they were trying to start building around. There was even a point where I felt like they were completely overloading on guards, which still could be true. There are a ton of those right now on this roster. But since drafting Paolo last season, it looks like this franchise has the perfect idea of the direction that they're headed into. And obviously, big shout out to Paolo. This man has been hooping the entire season. He's jumped his scoring average up a few points and grew big time as a three-point shooter since last season. And Franz Wagner, too. He's one of my favorite young players in the league right now. He looks like the ultimate Swiss Army knife player. Definitely a guy who can contribute big time to a championship level team. And their role players have also been great. We know that this team has one of the best bench units across the entire league. And you also can't have a coach of the year conversation without mentioning Jamal Mosley. What he's been able to do with this team, the fourth youngest team in the NBA this season, has been unreal. And as I said earlier, they may not be deep playoff run good right now, but best believe in a few years, once they continue to fine tune this roster around Banchero and Wagner, they will be championship level soon. If we look at the theme over the last 5 years, the way championship teams are truly built is through extended development around young stars. And Paulo and Franz are the perfect guys to build around should they choose to stay in that direction with those two. So shout out to Orlando. Can't wait to see what they have in store for the rest of the season. And who knows, maybe they surprise us in the playoffs come April.